Today, we are talking about hypertrophy. Big fancy word for gaining muscle mass, size, strength. Slightly different conversation. There's a little bit of overlap. You get one with the other, but not because of the other. We'll get into that. So, primary, two primary sources of hypertrophy in your training are stretch mediated hypertrophy, which is just you've loaded the muscle and you've let it stretch as far as it can go. Think dumbbell bench, and you just let those shoulder blades go back and they touch each other, and you're working with a decent weight that stretches all your muscle fibers. The other is muscle failure. There are two flavors. We'll get into it. Now, pause. This is all assuming that you've already created the scenario within your body to allow for muscle gain. That is just, you have to have the appropriate nutrients and energy levels to allow your body to create muscle tissue. Obviously, you need protein, you need enough calories. Surplus is the key term there. You need more calories than you would otherwise use for your daily activities. We're going to continue this conversation assuming that you have plenty of protein and calories to achieve muscle mass gain. So, we're going to get into stretch mediated because it's the quickest. It's literally just loading your muscles, stretching them out within a safe range of motion, and really sitting in that stretch. Just getting to the bottom and then coming up. You're getting a stretch, but you're not sitting with the stretch. The time that you apply that tension has a major factor in that. Um, and there was a study where they forced people forced these lunatics volunteered. They put people's feet into a stretching mechanism, and you would crank this thing so it kicked your foot way back and it would stretch your calf muscle painfully so over a course of weeks with no actual weight training. Muscle mass was gained. So there was that study that proved that stretch mediated hypertrophy is possible. Is it optimal? God, no. I would not rely on stretch mediated hypertrophy to gain extreme size or even appreciable size. But enter muscle failure. And if you look at any of the old bodybuilding videos, they're going to failure. What you might not glean from those videos is there's two types of failure. There's mechanical failure. That's where your body just can't move that weight anymore. Like you're done. You cannot move the weight you were using for another rep. Number two is I call it chemical failure, but it's also called metabolite failure, and that's just a fancy way of saying it burns like hell. So if you've ever done anything for repetition, you just get that burn in the muscle until it gets to a point where you don't even want to move it anymore. You wish that limb was no longer attached to your body. That's chemical failure or metabolite failure. I like chemical better. And it's referred to as lactic acid, but that's kind of a misnomer. Not important. Anyway, burns. If it burns to a point where you cannot move it anymore, and I mean really, I mean like, oh, it burns. No, I mean it's been burning for like half a dozen reps, and now I just can't move it anymore. It's shut off. That's failure. You're not going to discomfort. You're going to failure. Got to harp on that because there's a lot of people who say, "Oh, I take all my training to failure." No, you don't. It's not possible to go to failure every single set and still have enough in the tank to come back the very next day and do the same thing. If you do it right, that doesn't work unless you have special scenario. Um, Most normal people, they can't do that. Not for any long period of time. Um, so that's why you'll see people will work one body part one day, a different part the next day, because they're giving that busted up body part a chance to heal and recover because they took it that far. And that should be your goal. If size is your goal, pain is your friend. The right kind of pain. So mechanical failure achieves failure in a very specific way. Metabolite failure achieves failure in a very specific way. Can you use both? Absolutely. And that's called the drop set. Drop set, you take a weight that you cannot complete and rep range dependent. But let's say for 10 reps. You can't do 10 reps with this one weight, but you can get 9 and you can try like hell for 10. So, you tricep push down, classic. You run the rack. Um, so you do your push downs. You get 9 and 10 gets like right here and you're shaking and maybe you get it halfway and all right, can't do it. Without stopping, reduce the weight to something that you can move again. Repeat process. Ideally, you shouldn't get more than, you know, couple more reps than you originally started with. So if you're making big jumps, you might find, all right, I couldn't get 10, but now this one I got 15. Probably made too big a jump. You don't need to go plate by plate usually. Um, but it's something that you'll have to find what works for you. Um, Usually I do every other plate. That works pretty well for me. Depending on the training I did beforehand. Anyway, so that's how you can mix types of failure together. Because by the end of it, you're doing 10 pounds, but like it burns a lot and you can't move it anymore. So that's the goal. You hit mechanical failure and then you reduce the weight until you hit metabolite failure or chemical failure. Um, and you can, if you're smart about it, you can achieve stretch mediated hypertrophy at the start of that. So you let it sit in the stretch and then you extend. And you sit in the stretch and then you extend. So it would be like pause reps in that case. Eventually you will lose the ability to do those pause reps. So how much you're really getting from that stretch mediated hypertrophy? Don't know. Um, but if you're desperate for results, there's an option. Um, I like to cycle through, and I like to give each lift kind of its own focus. Um, so squats, you don't want to go to mechanical failure on squats if you can help it. It's not the safest way to do it. So if you can reduce risk, that's kind of a better option. So you can absolutely go to a metabolite failure or chemical failure. Um, and you're just using a lighter weight, something that, your spotter can help you get back in the rack. Um, don't be afraid of mechanical failure on the squat if you have safety pins and a spotter. It's not my go-to. Um, but you can absolutely get stretch mediated hypertrophy with squats. Um, and it's just pause reps and tempo, pause, all that fun stuff. Um, that can all contribute, but there are better ways to achieve failure with a squat movement, and I like stacking different options within a workout to all feed off each other. So if you if you train for power, you ever look at Olympic weightlifters, they do not look like bodybuilders, like at all. They are muscular, but they're not the biggest. So you can generally assume that training for power is not the most efficient way to gain muscle mass. So a fair statement. I'm not taking anything away from them. They do some hypertrophy work themselves, but they don't do their power lifts for that end. Completely different stimulus. Um, but what does training for power look like? It's movements that require all of your muscle fibers to immediately activate as fast as possible, preferably faster. So, what does that mean? That means the entirety of the muscle is activated. That's really what we want when we're going to failure. So, so that's what we really want when we're going to failure. We want every muscle fiber to be completely depleted. It's done all it can. So if we do a little bit of power movement to start with, get everything activated. Now your body's used to activating the entire muscle. It works kind of like a warm up. And then you attack the failure. And theoretically, you should achieve failure faster, which is actually desirable. So you don't have to spend, 15 reps trying to get through every last muscle fiber to recruit. Now maybe you can, most likely you'll be able to increase the weight because the entire muscle is activated. And now you can achieve failure, but with more hard reps in a shorter set. Less junk volume. Saves your joints a little bit. Everybody loves that, right? So the the idea is to stack as many benefits as possible so that you can maximize the effect. And that's how I structure all of my training. There's a little bit of power, there's a little bit of stretch mediated hypertrophy, there's a little bit of failure, and then I also train for strength so that I can maximize the effect of my hypertrophy. Like I'm not just getting bigger muscles because I like bigger muscles. I do like bigger muscles. I mean, what's not to like? But I have a purpose for my muscle gain. The bigger the muscle is, the greater strength potential it has. So I want to be as strong as possible. I need to max out the strength at a given size and then get bigger muscles so I can max out that strength at that size. Now, if you're just a bodybuilder, you don't need to train so much for strength. I would still recommend you train a little bit. It's good for your tendons and all that. So I wouldn't say completely swear off strength, but if there's a ratio, your hypertrophy work is going to be higher. But if you're like me and you don't care about stepping on stage and shaving everything and whatnot, you definitely need to balance your hypertrophy and strength work to suit your particular goals. I do a lot more strength work than I do hypertrophy work. But I still do a lot of hypertrophy work because hypertrophy work does the other end of helping your tendons. You need very, very high repetitions and very heavy weight. Both of those help with tendon health. So that's why you don't want to swear off one type of training or the other. Anyway, um, so hypertrophy is really not complicated. Everyone wants to say, between this rep range. No, 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 it's between this rep range. So you don't need to get so hung up on the rep range as much as achieving failure. Now you can't just do one rep to failure and then say, yes, that is the greatest hypertrophy stimulus. It doesn't quite work that way. You have to stack up enough hard reps to get the proper stimulus. Um, So generally, sets of 8 to 15 are really good because you have a heavy enough weight that you get a lot of difficult reps, but you achieve failure, you know, before your lungs give out for most lifts anyway. Um, so if you stay within 2 reps of failure, you're still doing really well. And older lifters would generally go that route because it's just less exhausting. I use that a lot for non-athlete types. So just people that are just trying not to die this year, you just stay within 2 reps. You're still getting a great hypertrophy response, but you're not crushing your body. Or if you have an injury, that's a great idea. I've dealt with a lot of injuries. Going to failure with an injured limb is a terrible idea. So you get close. And if it's injured, you probably can't do as much work on it anyway. So you just get as close as you can safely and without pain, and you take it from there. Um, Works great. So, and I'm going to reiterate one more time, you need enough protein and calories in order to give your body the resources it needs to grow muscle tissue. Stop trying to, train for hypertrophy while you're in a calorie deficit. Yes, there are extreme examples of people in a calorie deficit and gaining muscle mass. I wouldn't bank on it. It's not a great idea. The people who are maintenance calories and gaining muscle mass, yes, it's possible. It's called gaintaining. Is it efficient? No, but it's possible. But why are you so afraid of seeing the number on the scale go up? It's not like you can't lose the excess body fat because, yes, as you gain muscle mass, you're going to gain a little bit of body fat. Nature of the beast. But if you're training effectively and you have a manageable calorie surplus, I'm talking 250 to 500 calories, that range of surplus, that's pretty good for most people. Um, you'll get some hard gainers that they just have a super high metabolism for whatever reason. Or got one client, he owns a construction business. Dude never stops moving for like 16 hours a day. Yeah, we have him on a very, very high surplus. Um, because the math just isn't built for his lifestyle. So dude's eating over 4,000 calories right now. And I keep pushing him like, hey, if there's cupcakes in the house, you need to solve that problem. Uh, go eat more. But he's having great success. As long as he gets all his food in, he's good to go. Um, but I digress. All right. I want to wrap this up. Um, Another question that I got this week. Um, can I do more? And I love that question because it means this person's dedicated to their results. The problem that it comes up is if you're trying to do more, one of two situations has arisen. One, you didn't go hard enough in the first place. Very, very common. A lot of people don't understand what they're truly capable of. You have never hit true failure. I've seen people, and we've all seen the funny videos. Oh, it's just too heavy. Can you take some weights off? Takes it off, throws it right back on there, and they just start repping it out. Like your mind will give up way before your body does. And you have to train your mind to always believe it's got one more. It's always got one more. Yes, this is uncomfortable, but we can still do one more. Doesn't matter. It's painful, but we can still do one more. So there's a mindset that's required to optimize your outcome. I'm saying optimize. You can still get results even if you're not quite there yet. And it's going to take time. You need reps to get that mindset drilled in. So do what you can with what you got. And when you can do better, do better. The other situation that comes up a lot is you get people, a lot of veterans, who have a very high pain tolerance. So, yes, they're beat up, but they don't like not doing something. Like, I don't like sitting still. I hate being in front of the computer. Um, so you might get that itch to like, all right, why don't I just do a body weight circuit a couple of times throughout the day, just one round, and it just keeps me moving. You're not going to get a huge stimulus out of that. It's just keeping you moving, which is perfectly fine. It's not a problem. You can, however, push it too far. So if I did epic workout this morning and then in the afternoon I'm just antsy and I want to go do something. So now I go do 15-minute AMRAP with my sandbag. AMRAP is as many reps as possible in 15 minutes. And I just do sandbag to shoulder for 15 minutes and smoke myself. I haven't allowed my body to recover from the initial training. And now I've put more stress on it, and this compounds. So over time, your body's not able to fully recover and prepare itself for the next training session. And your muscle is built in the recovery period. And that's a big, important notion that I need to get through. You're not gaining muscle while you're training. That's the stimulus, that's the stress. Now you need to recover. You need the downtime, the sleep, the nutrition to, to let your body do its job, recover from the stress, and make it stronger so it can handle more stress next time. So if you're always going and you never stop, you're not actually getting any better. You're just breaking yourself down. So attack your recovery with the same intensity as your training, and you will maximize your hypertrophy. That's all the time I got for today, guys. I hope you got something out of this. If you did, like, subscribe, all the things, and shoot me a DM with any questions that you have. I'm happy to help. I love talking about training. So please let me know what else you guys want to learn. Be well and be strong.